Hello, I'm Brian Foster, and today we're talking about Spiritism. And today is April 18th, 2022. Before I begin, let's have a prayer. Dear Jesus, please allow us to discover and enlarge our conscience, that which is given to us as a divine gift by God, so we can weigh the right and wrong things to do in any circumstances. Please let us use that as a filter for all inspirations that we have, so we know which path to choose. And please, Jesus, please help us on the road to our own self-improvement. Amen. So today, before I begin, just if you're interested in Spiritism, let me ask you, if you want to explore more, there's many things you can do, all for free. The books I have shown here is the Spirits book, the Medium books, and the Gospel According to Spiritism, all by Allan Kardec. The Spirits books codified by Allan Kardec. You can just type in Allan Kardec space PDF. You will find those books in PDF for free. If you want to get quick, first, kind of an overview, just like it's less than 100 pages, I think 100 pages or so. Download my free PDF, Spiritism 101, the Third Revelation. It's on my blog site, nwspiritism.com. You can also download it in French, and if you prefer, it's in Kindle for 99 cents, and it's in paperback and in Audible format. So let's begin with the questions. So I started with this one question I wanted to spend some time at, and I got some supporting information on, which is, I was reading the Gospel According to Spiritism on one of your videos. Could you expand on the chapter that talks about the causes of affliction? And I wrote a note to myself, see pertinent chapter. So I have brought up this pertinent chapter. I want to show that into the stream right now, which is the Gospel According to Spiritism. You can see it's on PDF. I'm on page 111. And it says, the current cause of afflictions. It says the vicissitudes of life are two types, or if one prefers, they have two very different sources that are important to differentiate. Some have their cause in the present life and others outside of it. And that's, yes, absolutely. On searching for the source of earthly misfortunes, it will be realized that many are the natural consequences of the character behavior who bear them. So, as an example, if you smoke and you have problems with your lungs, right? You drink too much, there's problems with your liver, all sorts of things. I'll carry on. How many fail due to their own fault? How many are the victims of their own imprudence, pride, and ambition? How many ruin themselves for lack of discipline or perseverance, for wrong conduct, or not having limited their desires? How many unfortunate marriages there are because they result from calculated self-interest or vanity, because the heart has played no part? Well, and they were saying the heart still played no part. That means many that was more of a sensual desire, not something deep from your heart. How many disagreements and disastrous quarrels could have been avoided with more moderation and less susceptibility? How many ills and infirmities are the consequence of intemperance and excesses of all kinds? Absolutely. How many parents are unhappy with their children because they did not combat their bad inclinations right from the start? Whether from weakness or indifference, they allowed the seeds of pride, selfishness, and foolish vanity to develop in them, withering their hearts. And that's something I hear over and over again, where parents are regretful that they did not actually steer their kids better. They just let them get away with everything. I'm not saying that, do anything bad or anything, but there are ways to put them in the corner or whatever. Rewards and punishment is to really make sure they have correct behavior even from a very early age, and you should keep enforcing that until they start thinking for themselves, and then even then you can find other ways to enforce that. So yes, you cannot let them have the seeds of pride, selfishness, and foolish vanity. It will not help them in later life. It will certainly not help them to get into heaven. Yeah, carry on. Let all those who are stricken in their hearts by life's vicissitudes and disappointments calmly examine their conscience. Let them go back step by step to the source of the misfortunes that afflict them, and see whether they would not often say, if I only had or had not done this or that, I would not be in such a conundrum. Yes, we've all said that. Who then can blame for all their afflictions but themselves? Humans are thus, in the majority of cases, the artisans of their own misfortunes. But instead of acknowledging this fact, they find it simpler and less humiliating to their vanity to accuse fate, providence, bad luck, or their unlucky star, whereas their unlucky star lies in their own carelessness. And that could be from your present life or your current life. So I know what I said. I did a whole video on this. If you're going to blame somebody, blame yourself. I don't mean, hurt yourself or anything like that. Heavens, no. But think of what you did. Think how you could have done better next time. It makes a big difference. I'll carry on. Misfortunes of this nature are certainly comprise a noteworthy contingent in life's vicissitudes, and humans will avoid them only by working for their moral as well as their intellectual improvement. Human law reaches certain wrongs and punishes them. Condemned persons can thus be said to bear the consequences of what they have done. However, the law does not and cannot reach every wrong. It touches mainly the wrongs that harm society, not the ones that harm those who commit them. Okay, so let me carry on to the afflictions. I don't want to put too much on here. Okay, prior cause of afflictions. However, if there are misfortunes in this life of which humans are the primary cause, or others which, at least in appearance, are completely foreign to them, and which seem to touch them fatalistically, such as, for example, the loss of loved ones and family breadwinners. Such are, furthermore, the accidents that no foresight could have prevented. The reversal of fortune that frustrate all measures of prudence, natural disasters, and congenital infirmities, especially those that take from their unfortunate victims the means of earning their livelihood through labor, such as physical disabilities and mental impairment, etc. Those who are born in such conditions have obviously done nothing in their present life to deserve, without compensation, such a sad fate, which they could not avoid, which they were powerless to change by themselves, and which puts them at the mercy of public commiseration. Why, then, are there such unfortunate beings, while right beside them, under the same roof in the same family, there are others who have been favored in every way? So finally, what can be said of those children who die at very young age and who knew of life only suffering? There are problems that no philosophy has yet been able to resolve, anomalies that no religion has been able to justify, and which would be the negation of God's goodness, justice, and providence, according to the hypothesis that the soul is created at the same time as the body. And this is, yes, so if you feel that there is no such thing as reincarnation, then the question is, why would God be so unjust as to cause harm to these innocent people? But of course, the answer lies in previous lives and previous wrongdoings. I'll carry on. Nevertheless, in the virtue of the axiom that every effect has a cause, these miseries are effects that must have a cause. And if one believes in a just God, then that cause must also be just. Consequently, since the cause always precedes the effect, and since the cause in this case cannot be found in the present life, then it must be prior to this life. That is, it belongs to a previous existence. On the other hand, since God can neither punish us for the good we have done nor the evil we have not done, then if we are being punished, it's not because we have done evil. If we have not done evil in this life, then we did it in another. This is an alternative that is impossible to escape, and whose logic shows on which side justice of God lies. Okay, so let me get more. Let me get some more examples here. I don't want to get too much, but you know where to go. Is the Gospel according to Spiritism. Some I want to get to more specific, because I think people want specific questions. Here's a good paragraph. Suffering that does not provoke complaint may undoubtedly be an expiation, but this indicates it was voluntarily chosen beforehand rather than imposed, and it is a test of a strong resolution, which is a sign of progress. So you'll have a lot of these tests, so you'll put in yourself. Okay, so spirits cannot aspire to perfect happiness as long as they are impure. Any kind of blemish prevents their entry into blissful worlds. That's why we are here. We give ourselves these trials and tribulations. Okay. I think that was the main. So that was a lot of the causes. So this is forgetfulness of the past. So I went over this pretty quickly. I didn't want to take all the time to it, but I wanted to. Let me just read this last paragraph. As expiations, this is sicknesses or any ill health. They erase wrongs and purify. It is the medicine that cleanses the sores and heals the patient. The graver the illness, the stronger the medicine must be. Therefore, those who suffer greatly must tell themselves they have much to expiate and should rejoice at being healed sooner. It depends on them through resignation to make such suffering profitable and not to waste the fruit by complaining. Without resignation, they will have to start all over again. And I think this should be really the core of what we're talking about. There's no illness that's not given to you for a reason. And what Spiritism tells us that when something bad happens to us that we think are bad, but it's really educational, is that we should say, oh, good, I'll get through this. And that's one thing I will have atoned for. And I won't have to suffer this in my next life. Because if you are afflicted by something and all you do is complain and you hate everybody around you and you hate yourself and you hate God because of what they did to you, you might have to go through that again in your next life because obviously you did not learn anything. All the spirits want you to do is to learn through these trials. The problem is when you don't learn through the trials, then you may have to have them again or a little bit different. And actually, most of the time, if you're not learning, you go through harsher trials. So that is the importance. Okay. Let me go. I have a question. Hi, Brian. I don't know if you've touched this topic already, but can you talk about how Spiritism views Easter, the resurrection of Jesus? I don't think we believe he resurrected, if I remembered correctly. Yes. So resurrection implies you have your physical body back. And it's a lot of people believe that, like with the apocalypse, we will be resurrected, meaning that somehow we will reassemble our physical bodies and we will be just like we were, but hopefully younger and, healthier. So that's not what Spiritism tells us. That what instead is that we come back in life after life, and we use new bodies. They may, the name may be the same, or they may be a kind of similar appearance. Sometimes not. All depends. You're born in different classes, different races, different cultures. So for the vast majority of us, we do not come back and we're not resurrected. In fact, and Jesus, when he was in that tomb, his body would be allowed to decompose. Now, remember that Jesus is the master of this earth called Earth Educational Campus on Earth. He is the game master. He controls everything. So when he wanted to walk on water, he could change the parameters of what he was and walk on water. He wanted to stop a storm, he could stop a storm. When he wanted his body to disappear, he could make his body disappear. Now, when he came back to that room, it was the image, and of course, people said they could touch him, right? But that was because Jesus made it so. He came back not using his same physical cells. He used an image of himself that was created by universal fluid that he shaped to be pretty dense. So he appeared to be a real person. The same as when he met some of the apostles walking on the road and other places where you're like, oh, that's you. And so he can do that. And so therefore is that he came down. Of course, what spirits tell us is he didn't come down. He from his position of power in heaven, because he has control of this planet. He helped create the planet. He sent messengers to Earth to try and put us on the right road. Even before he came, Socrates, Buddha, Lao Tzu, right, and afterwards, a lot of people. So, and he what he did is he willed himself and he made himself appear to the apostles. And so therefore he was not resurrected in the formal sense of resurrection, meaning that your cells of your body and he had the same body. No, because remember, there really is no physicality in the spirit world. Its thought is action, and you are composed of your spirit, which is a logically encapsulated center for your character and your personality, which is immortal. Your perispirit, which is makes your covering, and that's what Jesus had. Is he had his perispirit, and he made it look like what the apostles thought he looked like, and he made it seem dense, so they would think that he was alive, like they touched him and so on and so forth. So to them, that was a great miracle. Now, Spiritism says there is no such thing as miracles. It's just things that we do not understand. And that's why when all these, when I first read the Bible before I understood Spiritism, and I read all this, like, oh, this can't happen. But then when you understand the true reality of where we are we're in this physical universe, which is a subset of the spirit universe. We are immortal souls. And so therefore, if we're immortal souls, let me bring this up to what we look like. So we have a spirit. You can see the picture of kind of a light, which is a logical encapsulation of your personality. A perispirit, which is how you want to appear. You can make yourself appear younger, older, different features, different skin color, different clothes, and then temporarily your physical body that you go in and out of as you incarnate, and then discarnate, and then incarnate and discarnate again. Jesus, now remember, on the other hand, is really in charge of the earth, and he has the highest degree of flexibility and freedom to do what he wants to on earth. And through his power of his spiritual power, he can decide to appear as himself. Now, also spirituals say that when they see Jesus in heaven, because Jesus is like the CEO, the governor, the leader of all the spirits around heaven, they see him in all different types of appearances. In fact, one spirit says he's never seen him in the same appearance first. And he also said, I've never seen him with a beard, whereas on earth, he always thought of him having a beard, but in the spirit world, he never saw him with a beard. So it all depends of how Jesus wished to appear. And I think it's the same way and many people read the Bible and think that Jesus, Immaculate Conception. Well, I'm not so sure about Immaculate Conception. How can that happen? And actually, that's how I thought. But when you understand the power of Jesus, and the power is to treat the physical world as data and molecules and atoms that he can then command through his power of his mind. We can't. We don't have that much power on Earth, right? Higher spirits could like move objects. Chico Xavier could put his hand on the book and read the whole book or magazine, whatever. So there are people with more power on Earth than we have, and we think that's most of us don't believe it, but it's been pretty well documented through not just Chico Xavier, but other really wise saints, like yogis. They'll be writing about them that they can travel by thought, right? They can just like, if they're locked in a prison, they'll just like walk right out. So there are people that higher spiritual, that the confines of Earth, which is the objective rules, right? The wall is the wall. Your head is hard, right? Apply. But to those people, they can go above the rules, and Jesus could go above the rules. And Jesus could, in Mary's womb, so to say, bring in the cells and the atoms and the molecules and the DNA. He could construct himself in there. He would have that power. And this is why I love Spiritism, because it actually explains why these things can happen. Now I logically say, okay. And then the other fantastic thing is, in books of Spiritism say, look, all those people that Jesus healed, because when Jesus was on the earth, he had armies of spirits all around him, always orchestrating, making sure everything was good, right? So when people who were healed, they were pre-positioned there with, from being born or being born blind or having some sort of sickness. And that They knew that, okay, this is part of the story we're trying to show people on Earth, right? And they would be already preset to be healed. Now, I don't think this should come across as being manipulative. I think it comes across as doing a lot of work to educate your students. I think this is how it should come across, is that you care about your students, you care about your children, as Jesus thinks of us, and that you want to give them the best leadership and the best uh, information on the path of life to proceed. And that's what Jesus came. And of course, it was very difficult, because when the Jews saw Jesus, they were looking for their savior, right? And in their minds is that a savior would come and he would save the Jewish country. And the first thing about that is get rid of the Romans. And therefore, Jesus came and showed them that, no, my kingdom is not of this world. It showed them that this physical world that you're on is just temporary and not as important as your spiritual growth, and as the fact that you need to spend your time rewiring your brain, right? Rewiring your personality. So I hope that explains that. I probably went too much into detail, but okay. So if I have any other questions, I will get those next. If not, I will carry on from the list of questions. Here we go. So let me take that one. Okay. Next question is, do you think technology is just a way to guide humanity to understanding spirituality? And I think the word just, I think it's one of the ways. And in fact, the Spirit Emmanuel, in the preface to, I think, In the Realms of Mediumship, I'm not quite remembering right, I could be wrong, said that science, and it doesn't make a difference if it's whatever type of scientist, if the scientist believes in spirituality or not. The scientists are working towards proving that the spirit world and God is real, is there, and that this will happen at some future date. So its technology is a couple of things. One is, yes, it will help in a way to guide humanity to understand spirituality, but many people have already understood spirituality without having to have technology present that to them, right? So I think that is important. That that is just one part. It's just as the spirit world works in everything. There's multiple channels always coming to us. So John the Baptist came before Jesus. Then Jesus came. Then he had the 12 apostles. Then he had Paul come. There's never just like one thing, right? There was many people helped Buddha. People were all around Allan Kardec. People helped Lao Tzu, Confucius, Zoroaster. There's a whole set of support group around anyone that comes and tries to tell us anything. In the same way as trying to give us a guide. There's many channels. Like right now, you'll see, me talking about Spiritism. You'll see all sorts of people talking about Spiritism. But then you'll also see a lot of wonderful Christians and a lot of wonderful Buddhists. They talk about Spiritism, and they talk about, in other religions too, they talk about increasing your spirituality and trying to let go of materialism. So they use multiple channels all the time. And so technology is, in that case, it's just one of those channels that will help us. And another case is that we are expected to rise in technology, because as we get into a planet of regeneration, and we are, how can I say this? We're able to use technology not for, because right now what we do is we use technology and we think, oh, what's the best way can we make a weapon out of it, right? And that is something that we have to grow past as we become a planet of regeneration. Okay, let me get the next question. It looks like spirits can influence our physical world through mediums. What are their possibilities? Well, spirits can come and use this fluid to appear, but they really don't, as a rule, physically will make things move. Like a hand will shut the door or something like that. So that's not really how it works. But they will influence our physical world through what they say and what they write, and the signs and signals that they will have. Think of all the well, think of right now. If you go on YouTube, you'll see a lot of Christian, wonderful people, Cat Care, the Elijah Stream, giving us what the prophets say, what's going to happen, how we should act, how we should improve ourselves. That's one way of influencing the physical world. Uh, I just interviewed Curtis Childs on Off the Left Eye. He just has a YouTube channel spreading Swedenborg, which was a wonderful person. It was a precursor of of Spiritism of Allan Kardec. That's one way. Now, so that's how and that's how, because Swedenborg was a medium and he wrote all this, right? These yogis and Buddha, they were essentially a medium. And then the people that they talk to, like on Elijah streams, are essentially mediums that are giving us more information and say, hey, this is here. This is for you to absorb and learn what you can. And that's what all the books by the Spiritist mediums are, like by Allan Kardec. And then there's books by Francisco C. Also, his nickname is Chico Xavier, which he's written like more than 400, psychographed more than 450 books. And there's actually up to 500 now after his death. And there's Yvonne Pierre, all wonderful books telling us about the spirit world, telling us about heaven, how we should comport ourselves, etc. So yes, there's a lot of possibilities, and most of it is all through evangelization, right? Is they write books, they do communications, and then the other thing they'll do is they'll try and put the right people to. This is not through mediums. They have already done that. It's been in progress for thousands of years, but it's kind of stepped up now since the year 2000. They brought people from higher planets who are higher spirituality than we are as an average on Earth to incarnate on Earth, become our leaders. And what we've been told is around the middle of the 21st century, around 2050, you'll see that these people will be in positions of power, being in positions of influence and authority, and you'll actually see them really trying to lead us into the next level of a planet of regeneration. See, have you ever heard from any other spiritual centers that you shouldn't have reunions or seances during Holy Week? Maybe this is a folk belief. No, I have not. I've never heard that you shouldn't have any meetings or medium meetings or meetings during Holy Week. I know a lot of them take it off. Some do, some don't. Christmas, they shut down for practically the month. But no, not. It's not like, no, you can't do that. In fact, if you ever are with a spiritist center or any type of religious center that says, no, you can't do that, or you can't, right? Then always be suspectful. Do not, why are they trying to control me like that? Why would you not want to have a meeting of like-minded people or have a mediums meeting at whatever time you choose? Right now, I suggest when you do have a mediums meeting, you try to make it the same time during the week so the spirits can protect that meeting. But no. Okay. Can high spirits help sick people? Absolutely, they do all the time. As an example, so first, on a regular basis, that in spiritist meetings, like I was one on Sunday, and a person talked. We said a prayer before the meeting. Then a person talked for, I think, for about an hour, talking about how they're talking about afflictions, talking about what um, Joanna de Angelis, the spirit Joanna de Angelis, said about afflictions, what Buddha said about afflictions, Carl Jung said about afflictions, and other spiritualist literature says about afflictions. Then after the meeting, we had passes, and you go and you sit down in a chair. You don't move. You just put your hands on your knees, and then someone goes in front of you and will give you a pass. And how that works is a spirit that stands behind that pass medium, and he or she will direct universal fluid through that human in order to condition or transform universal fluid into what fits on your fluid, so they can repair either any disharmony or take out stress points and things like that. So absolutely, spirits can help sick people. There are healing mediums that will help sick people through. A spirit will be behind them and help them. I've been to not spiritists, spiritual healing center in Brazil, one in Rio Novo. There's a new person there now, but the one I used to go there was a wonderful medium who was called Chico Monteiro. And I've heard many stories of him actually helping people. Now there's bad stories too, right? About some of these mediums that help sick people, that take advantage of them. And I feel so sorry for them. It doesn't mean that the spirits aren't helping them, but that person will pay a tremendous price. God forgive them. God bless them. But yes, spirits can help sick people. I also knew this one medium, this one woman who was on one of these light beds, and she went on this bed because she went overboard, right? Like every night, like for a week, and she got to at the end of the week, felt like there was she was being operated on by spirits, and she's and she would just be a sweating mess by the time, but she was much healthier than she was before. So yes, think of this: why can't they? If you consider that we are actually logical encapsulations, that we are on Earth in this physical body to learn, why can't they go in there and make adjustments to that physical body, since it is a temporary physical body and it is a logical representation of what the physical body should look like on Earth, right? Because there's other human likes on other planets. Why can't that happen? Enter it can. And this is strange for many people, because it gets to the world where there's ghosts, and there's spirits, and there's the evil eye, right? Bad thoughts, which can affect you if you let them affect you. If you don't, they're not going to affect you. And there is, it's like, well, why are you this primitive person? You believe in spirits just like a primitive tribesman. Well, my answer to that is they're not necessarily wrong, and a lot of them are closer to the spiritual world than we were, and we've been conditioned by decades of complete materialism to think all that is untrue. And why we're here and listening to people like me and reading the Bible and reading other literatures, because we know there's something out there. And all I'm trying to is give you a logical explanation. So yes, spirits can help people. And then lower spirits can also give people. That's why I keep telling everybody, learn to filter everything through your conscience. Lower spirits around the earth can always give you just dumb ideas, right? As I said before, being on earth is like being in 7th or 8th grade, where you have your so-called friends say, oh, let's do this, or why don't you try that? Which is, something that they can laugh at you for. That's where we're at, right? But we have to go through this training so we know not to be affected by that. We know that we learn to filter everything through our conscience. So because when we're in the spirit world and thought is action, we don't want to have negative or bad thoughts. We only want to have good, positive thoughts. That doesn't mean we're boring. It means we're constructive. Okay, now I remember there are gifts There are these gifts from the Holy Spirit mentioned in the Bible. I checked. Something is mentioned in 1 Corinthians 12. Among them, to others, that one Spirit gives gifts of healing. Okay, I don't remember that one, but yes, spirits can give gifts of healing. They can do it, and it's all possible, right? There's so many things that are possible that I, in all honesty, before I found Spiritism, thought that was just a lot of poppycock from, like, oh, this is myth, right? No. But now that I understand the true structure of the universe, which we are this wonderful, powerful spirit, that as we get more and more powerful as we go up, we can actually change things with our mind. And that the fact on Earth, we're limited, right? Because we have to learn. It's like a child, right? You don't let a child say, oh, go learn to drive. Here's the keys to my car. No. They're in these little fake cars, right? Or they're in this little, take them to the Utopia, or they ride a little trike or a little bicycle. It's always step by step by step. We're the same way. We're here learning how to use our minds. Okay, here's another question. I have a question about past lives. Try to take a drink. And the way we are supposed to correct mistakes. If we take an action on the current life that affects someone else, where such action is supposed to be in his or her benefit, and we don't know if such action taken is going to be prejudicial in the long run, if such action taken ends up being prejudicial for that person, was that person supposed to have harm because of errors he or she did in the past life? I'm kind of confused of how, get the next part, of how are we supposed to cope with the fact that on our current life, we are going to pay for previous mistakes? Because if I harm someone unintentionally, thinking that I did it on his or her benefit, then that person is paying for previous mistakes? I'm confused with the whole thing. And I put this down there. Answer: the intent is everything. Okay, so let's talk about this. And you know what? It is hard because look, when you think about it, well, let's take your question first before I get higher. If your intent was to do something good, but although that person took what you did for them and did something bad or made a bad mistake, that is on them. So when you say, because I harmed someone unintentionally, thinking you did it for someone's benefit, that is positive karma for you. And that is a bad decision by that other person. Right? Now, I know that you're thinking these things, you're going through all this because, look, everyone, you go through so many interactions. It's like a single thread in a huge carpet. How can you follow that thread? Because you have so many interactions and things happen, and you may have just parked kind of wrong, so that person couldn't go into that parking spot, but they had to go to another parking spot, and then someone was waiting at that parking spot to rob them or kill them or something terrible. And so, were you responsible for that? No. This is so complicated, and this is why we have to think that the spirit realm is so far above us. They have this multivariate, Monte Carlo simulations of what happens, and they have armies of spirits that say, no, and inspire that person to park funny so that they take up 2 spaces, right? So because that next car coming along, we want something to happen to that. These things happen all the time. And in fact, spirits will say that this is not just guardian angels. These are spirits that will come and they help things to get done. They'll say that, we're told to do things, and we don't understand the logic of why we did that or to that person. But then maybe a year or 2 years later go, oh, that's what they do. So these people up there, first, they see the future. They have plans for us. I mean, you cannot believe the amount of lesson planning and effort that goes into helping each one of us become a better person. And, spirits say, like, yes, spirits cry because they cry because they see their loved ones making dumb decisions, like you cry when your child does something like, oh, no. Right? We've all seen that. Or when yourself or your best friend does something like, oh, no. But you're there to help them. Same way. So you're not going to pay for anything that you did unintentionally. That's not going to happen. But these things, you have to look at it in two different ways. One is you look at it from that life is a play on earth and that you are the central character. And you go through life and people come, and just like a play, right? People come and you have interactions and things happen. And that star, that center of the play, becomes a better person at the end of the play. And yet these people that came in and affected this star, right? The main character of the play, some of them did bad things, but somehow that main character grew through that experience. So you have to look at when people do you bad or people do you wrong or make you frustrated, they are characters that are there to provide certain stimuli to you for you to grow. In the same way, you also have to consider yourself a walk-on character, maybe not many lines, because you're also a character of your own main play, but you're also a walk-on character in other people's lives. And all of a sudden you may get this inspiration that, oh, there's a job where I work, and I know like my niece or nephew needs that job. I'll call him up. Now, probably that was an inspiration from a spirit saying, call that person up and tell them there's a job opening. That was you being used as a walk-on to that person's play. So if you can think of it in those two terms, it becomes easier. Now, trying to figure out why for everything that happens, that becomes a lot harder. But it is interesting is when you start thinking about why things happen to you. And as the spirits say, look, you don't really, first of all, you don't need to understand your previous life. And actually, you're not supposed to, because there's things that you don't want to know. I mean, you could be the son or daughter of parents that you either robbed or killed them before, or they did something bad to you. The spirit world wants to reconcile you, or you have a brother or sister that you hate. You don't know why. That's because you guys were fighting before. So the spirit world is thinking, well, hopefully we can get these guys together this time, right? Reminds me of my sister and I, we would fight. My mother would say, she'd put us both in the bathroom and go, you can't come out till you make up. I thought that was pretty effective. So that's what the spirit world, they do these things, right? That's why you don't get into big arguments and, like multi-year revenge and spats with people, because, if things are not resolved, the spirit world will put you together in some way in your next life and make sure they're resolved. So don't hold a grudge. What did Jesus say? Forgive 70 times 70. He knows what he's talking about. That's why the more you understand Spiritism, that Bible wasn't just a bunch of parables and like niceties that go, oh, that's interesting. No, the New Testament, and there's more in the Spirit's book, but the New Testament is an instruction manual. If you read that as an instruction manual, how you should really live your life, there's there. And of course, the Spirits say that it's through the Old and New Testament. The messages of love, fraternity, charity, and honesty are eternal. Other things, they gave messages to people, but they could understand in their culture and technology at the time. That's why Old Testament, there's pretty cruel things there, and less so in the New Testament. Even then, there's things that you could object to, but the messages of love and charity are eternal, and that's why Spiritism says we're still being talked to by spirits. Okay. So I hope that explains it. It's a great question, it's not easy. It's a tough one. But I mean, first of all, what we have to do is we just have to recognize that um, the spirit world is so smart that we look like 2-year-olds to them, right? We cannot conceive. It's just like saying that some people think that when you die, you're like, oh, I know God. I'm right next to God. And the spirits say, look, even we don't understand God. You have to be probably on the level of Jesus or higher um, to start to begin to understand God. So there's things in there that are beyond us. Okay. And if no one has any other questions that you're typing in, I'll go through another one. When a person, I think they think they meant dies, do they immediately recognize their guardian angel? I've been asking my guardian angel to give me his name for a long time. Then I read somewhere that they don't have names. We call them whatever we want. Then later I heard a voice whisper, Jacobo. So now I call them Jacobo. Will I recognize him when my time to pass on? So there's a couple questions. First of all spirits have names, but spirits will not give you their name, their unique name, because that's like you giving someone your identification number, your phone number, social security number, whatever you call it, whatever country you are. You don't give that out lightly because they can reach you whenever. So no, spirits will not give names. They will give you a nickname to use, like Jacobo. Now, so that, and call him Jacobo, and that's fine. Now, if your guardian angel wishes to meet you at your death, your recognition will be instant. They will make sure you recognize them. They'll put that in your mind that I am your guardian angel. That will not be a time of hesitation whatsoever. But not everyone meets their guardian angel. I read where this one spirit, who was a very high level spirit, 10th level of heaven, only got to meet his guardian angel at the 10th level of heaven. So he went through many lives, never actually seeing his guardian angel. He knew he was inspired by his guardian angel, but he never saw him. So you are not at all guaranteed to be with your guardian angel. There will be people around you that you are familiar with that will make you feel comfortable. It's just like Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead, right? Again, something that you read interpretation all the way, but Jesus says, no, the spirits will help the other spirits. They'll help them get out of the body. Don't worry about that. And he's right. So, I mean, this is again a point where it just it's amazing. The more you understand about spiritualism, the more amazing the actual New Testament is. So you will recognize them. That will be a certainty. Okay. It feels as if Spiritism is still a very new philosophy. Yes, it's about 150 years old. Not a huge movement as Catholicism, Muslim, Hinduism, etc. I know Spiritism is not a religion, but a doctrine. So can we assume that we have thousands of years left before humans and our planet regenerate? And I think what it meant is 1,000 years left before we become a planet of regeneration. Okay, so the doctrine of Spiritism is meant not to be a one world religion at all, right? It is a doctrine. It is what is planned by the spirit world is for these other religions to take the tenets of Spiritism, reincarnation, karma, right? Those type of things, and apply them to their own religion. And then let's say, some evangelical Christian sect becomes, okay, now we know reincarnation there and karma is real, and then they can base more of their stuff off of that. So now you're asking the question, we have thousands of years left before we become from a planet of atonement. A planet of atonement is where we're at now, where we have to pay for our past lives to become a planet of regeneration, where we have more good spirits, more, I shouldn't say good, but I should say elevated people on earth than ignorant people on earth. Well, what we're told is that's beginning right now. Now, it may take 1,000 years for us to see the total effects, right? And we're told is that it's really going to start seeing it about the year 2050, and we will be a planet regeneration for 7,000 years till we go to the next level. For those of you who are still young, you're going to start seeing this. Now, you're thinking, oh, are you sure? Are you crazy? I mean, this planet's pretty screwed up right now. And I think this is really one of the signs that this is something, look, a lot of these, all this sickness has gone around, all this corruption of government and all this destruction and conflict is there because after this, something's going to happen big that's going to cause a lot of people to become more spiritual. In the near future, we're going to have some big events that's going to surprise people, I believe. So no, it's not that far away. We are closer than you think. We're at the pinnacle of materialism, of the doctrine of wokeness, right? Where everyone's a victim and we play the victim Olympics, all that stuff. That will change. That people will get back into the real world. Hopefully, that's my opinion, and I believe that in the messages I have received, that that the earth will become, that we will spread spiritism, the doctrines of spiritism will spread. People will understand that this will have to happen. And I'm not saying anything like an apocalypse or anything like that. I'm just saying things will happen that people will make a difference. Okay. Another question. I smell cigarettes and cigar in my home all the time. I feel a male figure, no harm meant, but feel them around. How do I connect with that spirit and ask, why is he still around? Well, yes, smelling, you can usually smell a spirit if you've got that talent. Some people can, higher spirits, you'll smell the sweet floral scent. I've smelled that before. Not that I have that talent, but somehow I've done it once or twice. My question is, did you have a grandfather or uncle who was a big smoker and cigar smoker, who was not very spiritual, but a nice guy, right? And he stays around you. One is because you feel his presence, and that makes that spirit feel better that you feel his presence, because it looks like no one else did, right? That's what happens to spirits all the time. They die and they go home and they go, well, how come no one sees me? And then they're told that by the spirits finally that you've changed. You are now in the spirit world, and can we help you go up? So you can connect with your spirit by even just saying out loud or thinking, say, look, I feel your presence, and I would recommend that you look up and not tie yourself to earth. For some reason, there's something important to you on earth, but really the important place you should be is to ask for assistance from Christ and from the spirit world. Ask for your guardian angel for help and go to a better place. Go to heaven or one of the outposts in the lower zone where they can start teaching you to take it full advantage of you being a spirit. It is a superior existence, and one that you will love, somewhat different than your material existence, but it'll be one that you will love once you get to know it. And you can say that out loud. They will hear you. You may not hear them, but they will hear you. And that will do a great service to that person. Okay. Just a comment about the Holy Week. In the Bible, it says it happened during the Jewish Passover. From what I found this year, that is actually in the week in front of us. Yeah, and the spirits have talked about this, like Christmas, like Christ's birthday, right? And he wasn't really born on December 25th. But since that is the practice of everyone, and that's the belief, there's no harm in saying, that's fine. And that really tells you a lot about how spirits teach us. What they do is they don't say, you're wrong. That's it. They'll just keep giving you more information and let you figure it out for yourself. So they're not going to come down and say, no, this is wrong. If people believe it and they want to pray and have a better attitude, because the spirit world loves the attitude that when people get more giving and service oriented during Christmas, that's all fine. Okay. Can it be possible that our spirit guides are actually our own selves in past lives, together learning the lessons we need to learn in this lifetime? And I think the answer to that is I don't think so. I don't know that for sure. I mean, that's really an interesting philosophy. And I think it goes to where some people say that we live all our lives at once in parallel. And what I think of that is it's not an efficient way, and the spirit world is always tries for efficiency. So if you're trying to lead multiple simultaneous lives, learning different things, they couldn't direct you as well as possible if you didn't leave serial lives, and they could direct you and say, okay, you start from this point, now we'll go to point A to point B to point C. Now if you consider that we have our conscience and our instinct embedded into each of us from previous lives, that is our own spirit affecting us in our current life from our past lives, all the accumulation, right? Because your conscience is put into us by God, right, into each of us. But that conscience grows. It's like a law library where you add more case history and understanding as you go further and further in life. And then your instinct also will warn you of different situations which you have seen before. Your instinct will tell you that, no, I don't want to drink alcohol. I don't want to do anything with addictive drugs. I've been there, done that. I'm not doing it. And so I think those things are from your previous lives affecting your current life. Question: is there a spiritual purpose to dementia, Alzheimer's disease? I care for my mother on a daily basis, so it'd be nice to understand why this is happening. Thanks. And yes, there is always a cause and effect. And what the cause was could be many, many things. And I don't know an example of dementia or Alzheimer's that on top of my head, but I know like an example of severe skin disease that this one person had. And they had severe, painful skin disease because they had their group of employees in a previous life. He locked them into this caustic factory, ruined their, hurt their skin. They lived in horrible conditions. And now in his current life, he had to go through skin disease. Another example is throat cancer. This one person had throat cancer because in a previous life, they cut out the tongue of one of their slaves. It's really cruel. And the funny thing about it is that the guy who was his father in his next life when he had throat cancer was the slave they cut the tongue out. This man, so forgiving and such a great person that he was his father, trying to help him spiritually rise above what he had been in the past. My own example is I was told one time by a medium saying, you ever have any problems with your feet? And I said, no. But then afterwards, I thought, well, yeah, I was born with a club foot, but then when you're in now modern times, when you're a baby, since your bones are, pretty elastic, they had me on one of those, strap things. And so I had no effect of it. So I never could ice skate. But I was told that in previous lives, I had cut people's feet off. I had tortured people on their feet in order to get where their treasure was. And that then I was also told that there's one guy I was like worried about, and I was always trying to help, a friend of mine. And I was told by a medium that I helped him and liked him because in the previous life, he took me in when no one else wanted me because I was useless. So I was never told directly, but I think in that one life, I was probably born severely disabled, like maybe no legs or something like that. Um, so those are just some clues. And even now in this life, it brought over when I was born with club feet. It must have been something as I was gestating in my mind in the womb. So I hope that helps us. There's always a reason. Is it possible that wait, did I do that one already? Oh, is it possible that our spirit guides are actually our own selves in past lives? Yeah, I think I talked about that for our conscience and so forth. Sorry about that. Okay. I purchased No Solar after listening to one of your videos. It is one of the best books on spiritual literature I've ever read. What book from Chico Xavier do you recommend I read next? Well, No Solar is a series. Andre Luis, I should say, not No Solar. Chico Xavier, Psychograph from the Spirit, Andre Luis, a series of books. And I believe the next one is The Messengers. So I would go to my my blog, nwspiritism.com. I would type in the search bar down on the right hand side navigation, Andre Luis books. I think I have a list in order of the books, and then you can click on the picture of Allan Kardec. It'll take you to the FEB bookstore, and it will give you all the books by Andre Luis. But you probably want to read them in order. It's not necessary that you do, but you can do that. I would recommend that. The other book that is just fantastic is by Yvonne Pierre, The Memoirs of a Suicide, which was just amazing book. It's amazing. And then if you're interested in how the spirit world led the whole earth, there's On the Way to the Light. And I have it right there, On the Way to the Light by the Spirit Emmanuel, again, Chico Xavier. Then if you want, like on my own books, like I have Heaven Below, book 1, Spirits in Spirit Universe, book 2, and How We're Guided by Spirits, book 3. Those are more like knowledge things I bring in from all different spiritual books to give you what really is the processes and the procedures of what's happening in the spirit world. So hopefully I've loaded you up. Well, thank you so much. I do appreciate you answering my question. Oh, it's my pleasure. Okay, one more comment to think about Christmas from Luke chapter 2, verses 8 to 21. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. Yeah. Yeah, there's always, and they were in the same, yeah, so that's kind of a way of saying that we're always being watched night and day, that the spirit world is all around us. Absolutely. Can you give us an example of what you think would be the big thing on the planet that will change people to be more spiritual? That's a great question. And I think we're being set up for that. Look, if you look at this generation, and when I talk about generation, let's talk about a generation of spirits learning. And what I mean is over multiple lives. And so the spirit world has decided to bring Europe down, right? So they had the Franco-Prussian War, World War I, World War II. They had communism and the other thing, and I don't want to say the word on YouTube, where, under Mao and Stalin, millions of people died, and by other people too, millions of people died. Yet all this corruption. So we've seen that, and of course, in the far past, we've seen that religion causes wars, and that people think, "Oh, government's the answer." Well, I got news for you: government kills more people than anything else at this point, too, in time. And now we have this part where, again, we think that, oh, government's the answer, but now government has completely shown themselves to be corrupt, and that with their handling of all the sickness. They've clamped down people's freedom. They've forced you to take things that make them money, right? All of this. And then they've kept power to themselves. So you have to look at the long stretch, right? This is setting us up for thinking that, if I put all my faith on earth, what do I place it in? It's all, it's pretty rotten. And so this will set us up, I think, to show things that will happen on a higher sphere. Now, exactly what that will be, I don't know. It's a great question. And if I knew the answer, I'd tell you, but I don't. Okay. Why do churches believe spirits are evil? And the Catholic Church and other evangelical Christian things, they say, don't talk to spirits. Spirits are demons, right? They call them demons. Spiritism does not believe in the devil per se, does not believe in Satan, doesn't believe in angels per se. It doesn't believe that God created angels and devils and demons. No, all of these things that people think they are us in different levels of spiritual maturity. Angels, high spirits, are us who've gone through many, many lives, learned to be a good person. People in the lower zone of the dark abyss are people who are ignorant, and they're still trying to influence us on earth to their own ways, to their own ignorant ways, because they knew that once we go to a planet of regeneration, that they're going to be off the earth, right? We're not going to have these low spirits around us trying to influence. We've gone through that part of our lesson plan. So why do churches believe spirits are evil? Well, first of all, the early church, when people gathered, they talked to spirits. They had a lot of communion with spirits, according to Spiritism and other instances, right, of people will say that. So I believe the churches do not decided. First of all, they changed the Bible to take things out of it, talking about reincarnation and talking to spirits more, things like that, because they became corrupted. So as the church under Christ, when they first started, they met in the home. They talked about multiple lives. They communed with spirits. They sought guidance from spirits. But then as the church became formalized, they said, no, we don't want people talking to spirits. We don't want people thinking for themselves. We want them to pay us for us to think for them. And so therefore, that was part of the corruption of spirits. And in fact, the spirit world says that they brought St. Francis de Assisi, who was one of the apostles, was one of the apostles of Jesus. They reincarnated him as St. Francis of Assisi to show the Catholic Church, this is how you should be. You should help people. You don't worry about these grand palaces, these grand cathedrals. Of course, that, they didn't pick up the hint. But that's the churches. I believe that churches believe spirits are evil because they wanted to retain their power. And then other ones, they don't consciously think that, so they just took the dogma and brought it straight. And there are some good reasons for that, because if you don't understand spirits and you talk to spirits that give you a fake name and give you bad direction, you can be fooled. And that's why Spiritism invests a lot of time to train mediums in order to find out what type of spirit they're talking to, what level. And that's why if you're in a mediums meeting or you think a spirit's communicating to you, read the mediums book, the Book of Mediums by Allan Kardec, but also listen to what they say over a good length of time. And you're conscious, you'll discern if they really mean well. But if they're giving you stupid direction, telling you not to do this or to do that, or they're flattering you too much, those are not good spirits. A good spirit will give you general direction and a path to higher spirituality, and they will also give you a little bit of a like a teacher will, like, nah, I think you need to work a little bit harder on this, right? They're not gonna blow smoke in your eyes, whereas these other spirits will. So that's my opinion. Other people can have other opinions. Okay, so just to end, I think if you're interested in Spiritism and really would like to know kind of what is the physical universe, what is the spiritual universe, why are you here, what are spirits, I would suggest you read The Spirit Realm. Spiritism Revealed the Reality of Our Existence. Now, to get more of how you need to improve on Earth, And this is based upon a like 24 steps from the spirit Andre Louise, who was the spirit that dictated the book No Solar. Is he wrote a poem of 24 stanzas, short stanzas. I went through each stanza, and each one builds upon the other, and I say what he means by this and how to achieve this state of how to live here on earth to prepare yourself for heaven and to have inner peace and less stress. So anyway, I want to thank everyone for being with me tonight.